Hello, Reading Reddit. This is Reading Reddit, and I'm going to start talking a little bit about the stories we have here today. We have four stories, and they are going to be in the workplace arena. Um, I'm really excited about this one today. So we are going to go ahead and let's get started. Woman claims she was harassed by her manager, but she eventually has to pay back the hush money. Claim harassment against me? Get fired. At one point, I was managing a small team of business development reps at a small software company. These are the recent grads that would be phone monkeys, making cold calls trying to set up appointments for the salespeople. I had two reps at the time, Amy and Paul. They were young, but hungry. They listened to training and were generally great employees. At one point, Paul and I realized that we had some mutual friends, and that helped our relationship. But fast forward a few months from their hiring, and my boss grabs me one moment for meeting with HR. Apparently, Amy had filed a harassment complaint against me, alleging some crazy things. She reported that my single goal was to ruin her career and that I would make sure she was fired. The HR meeting was a formality, as no one believed it, but they had to do the investigation. Nothing came from it, but I would never be alone in a room with Amy again. If she came to talk to me with no one around, I would go to a common area of the office and invite someone into the discussion. After a few more months, Paul asked me for a reference. The company was a mess and the CEO was running it into the ground. I was more than happy to do it, and as I was job hunting myself, I just asked that he keep me in the loop about interviews and offers, and I would cover his time out of the office. Not surprisingly, he landed a job pretty quick and gave his notice to me. Also, at the time, IT was doing a hardware upgrades. We're doing hardware upgrades to laptops, adding more RAM, allowing us to run the latest version of our products for demos. I coordinated with IT to have both their machines done one day and told them to take a long lunch. Well, a little over a year before this happened, one VP had been fired. After he left, I learned it was common practice for IT to review all Skype chat logs from the machine. Luckily, it meant me getting a small bonus because the VP was trashing the company to me, but I wasn't, and I was vaguely praising the CEO. I'm no dummy and don't have those conversations over channels that can be reviewed. With Paul out the door and Amy being a lying grunt, I asked IT to review their Skype logs during the upgrade because something seemed fishy. I was right. Even though Amy deleted her chat logs, Paul didn't. There were chats in there about how they were both job searching and Amy had gotten an admin password from our CRM. She had been pulling customer lists to take with her. Furthermore, she had been bragging about receiving a $1,500 bonus to drop the harassment complaint against me, as the CEO was worried that any complaints or lawsuits would scare away the investors needed to keep the company going. Oh, and she chatted, they made me sign a non disclosure about it, but they won't find out. She was toast. Director of IT and I went straight to HR and the CEO with the printouts. The decision was quick. Both would be terminated immediately. Amy for unauthorized access of data and breach of her non disclosure, and Paul for some nonsense reason of not reporting her. They got back from their lunch and I immediately called him to HR. Paul was given 2 weeks severance and Amy needed to pay back her $1,500 hush bonus. Because of her gross misconduct, she wasn't eligible for severance or unemployment, and repayment was deducted from her final check and quarterly bonus. Her exit check was less than $10. Paul had 2 weeks off with severance. We remained connected, but I love seeing Amy change jobs on LinkedIn every 6 to 9 months. Okay, so I have a little bit of thought here. Like, Paul, I don't like Paul either in all this because he seems like a snake in the grass as well. Like, he didn't even say anything to the boss about, hey, Amy was bragging about the $1,500 bonus and a non-disclosure. Like, a fake, um, a fake complaint. So yeah, I don't like Paul either. All right, let's get into the comments. Nice. Paul hopefully learned the lesson not to have recorded evidence that can get you in trouble, and you were able to get rid of Amy without it looking like you singled her out for the Skype logs. You absolutely over or you absolutely effed over a parasite while simultaneously getting your buddy a pretty decent deal on the way out. That's pretty frickin' pro, dude. And someone else says the timing was right for this guy's coworker, saying, "This reminds me of a guy at my company who had become disenchanted with the new management team. He decided to leave and take another job for lower pay, but said it was worth it. The day before he was going to give his notice to HR, he was terminated with full severance. He laughed all the way out to the parking lot." See, that's why you don't, that's why honestly, if I ever like got an offer or something, I would not give my 2 weeks. I would just simply say, like, I would give my notice like on my last day that effective immediately I'm leaving. Because when it really comes right down to it, they're not going to give you 2 weeks to fire you. All right, so this last one, our last comment, the Amy girl girl deserved everything she got. People like her are the reason why so many harassment complaints aren't taken seriously. What a lying wretch. Good for you, OP. No, okay, I'm gonna just say no. The reason why so many harassment complaints aren't taken seriously is because they don't take women seriously. That's what we're not gonna do here. All right, so our second story is story number 2. He took time to travel off work. He took company recruits me for senior position, brings me to their HQ. Project gets canceled while I'm interviewing, and I'm supposed to pay for the trip? I don't think so. During the dot-com boom in the late 90s, I became somewhat well known for my expertise with a now somewhat obsolete networking technology. I ended up getting heavily recruited by a big telecom firm in Denver to run the technical side of a huge networking project they had underway. After multiple phone interviews, I was invited out for the big in-person sit-down, a 2-day affair where I met the big dogs, other techies, HR, etc. It was a pretty killer opportunity. Took the trip, first day of the meetings, went great. I felt it was a great match, etc. I did sense there was some tension between two groups over network architecture. Turned out that was one of the reasons they were bringing in someone more senior who could finalize the approach and get the project moving. That was fine, all part of the job, whatever. Got wined and dined after the first day, was definitely feeling like the job was a match, and I'd be moving to Denver. Went in the second day and another round of interviews, the division head takes me to lunch. Then, that's when it all blew up. While we were at lunch, the firm's senior management canned the entire project and fired every person associated with it. Apparently, there was a huge internal political war going on. This project was ground zero for the big battle, and this division just lost. We get back from lunch, and the manager escorts me to HR, where we're going to sit down and go over their offer. Instead, he's told what's going on, and that he's out of a job along with everyone else on the project. At this point, I was told to leave. No apologies. It was just bad luck for me. What? Okay, then, I'm gone. I get back to the hotel and there's a voicemail for me asking to call the HR people. I'm ticked, but I call. They tell me they've had to cancel my return ticket and that I need to pay for my hotel myself right now, but that if I would submit an expense report, might be able to get me a check. Then a second voicemail from the front desk asking me to provide a credit card for the stay. And then I get a call on my cell phone from the car rental company, which I didn't answer. Turns out they wanted my credit card. Forget that. I called the airline and they said my reservation had indeed been canceled. But they also acknowledged that the reservation was paid for using a fully refundable ticket, which I was holding, which back in the 90s was essentially as good as cash. Said they wouldn't know for certain if I could board until I showed up at the counter with the physical ticket. Great. Just great. I'm on the hook for several thousand in airfare, nice hotel, and rental car after taking several days of vacation for my job for this interview? I don't think so. Here's the revenge. I packed my bags and loaded up the rental car, left the keys in the hotel room door, drove the rental car back to Dallas, stayed overnight in Amarillo, dropped the rental at the Hertz lot at Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, took the shuttle to the terminal I'd left my car at, and drove home. Over the next few months, I get several nasty phone calls from their HR and accounting departments demanding that I pay them back for the trip, including paying for the $700 drop-off fee for the car. Never answered them, and of course, just went to voicemail. Eventually got a demand letter from their legal department, paid an attorney a nominal fee to send them a demand for compensation, threatened a lawsuit letter. Never heard from that firm again. That's horrible. And they tried to get someone who was interviewing for a job to pay the travel expenses to interview for the job. He did the right thing by refusing to comply. Here are some comments. So, what technology is this? I'm very curious. I've worked in IT my entire life. My career was just getting started during the dot-com bubble. I specialize in Cisco VoIP. Of course, you didn't hear from them again. They probably figured out they didn't have a legal leg to stand on, and your lawyer would have had a field day. What a company. You dodged a bullet. Next comment, it sounded like they took their card off the rental car since the rental car place was calling you. I'm a bit confused about that part. I guess the car rental reverted to their company card when they couldn't get a hold of you. And then the last comment is telecom companies have never treated any of their employees or customers with dignity. History surely repeats itself, folks. Our third story, our penultimate story, be abusive to your employees, say bye-bye to your job. My former boss was simply put an absolute jerk. He was the type of person that had the ability to be so condescending while acting as if he was doing you a favor. His condescending attitude was sometimes downright abusive, and he seemed to have a particular problem with all of the female employees. He acted as if they were dumb and needed assistance with every step. He loves to scream at people regardless of how little their mistake was, if there was even one. He was a slave driver and expected everyone to sacrifice their own personal lives for the job. The thing that sparked the revenge was him telling me to miss my older sister's birthday to come back into work on a day that I had already booked off. No one liked him. Me and all of my colleagues in the department, around 10 or so, couldn't stand him being here anymore. So we did the protocol. All of us piled together the evidence we had on him not sticking to booked off holiday schedules, having inappropriate and sometimes abusive language, and we brought it all on one Google Doc. That was step one. Step two was getting a cherry on top. We did this by getting him to do one of his screaming tantrums at one of us. We wanted this to be as damning as possible, and the youngest and smallest girl out of us volunteered to be the bait. She made some intentional beginner's mistake in her paperwork, something bound to get her roared at. And the idiot took the bait. You see, he likes to do his scoldings in front of all of us to prove a point, or rule by fear, as he called it. This gave us the perfect opportunity to film it from behind our desks and add it to the Google Doc. Now, you see, in our company, there's this really not well made email system. You can send an email to the entire department, and I mean entire, as long as you have its name and manager's name. But the thing about this was the fact that all of this information was completely and freely given to employees. And this means that a person could send in whatever email they wanted to the entire company, including the CEO. So one morning at 10 a.m., to ensure that as many people would be working as possible, we made a burner email and sent the Google Doc through an email to everyone in the company. It took a little while as there were many departments to get through, but we got there in the end. We gave the email subject boss's name, vital information, branch name, department name. Of course, our boss received the email as well, and you could basically hear the clutter from his office as people all over the company were contacting him to ask him what the hell this was about. HR did a light investigation into him and took heavy disciplinary action. As far as I know, he wasn't directly fired, but instead he resigned. And a month later, after that, we never saw him again, and he was replaced by a new guy who was also a jerk, but less of one. His expressions during the ordeal helped me sleep late at night. Wow, that was really good. In fact, I love that. I think that that was the best. You get evidence, you get all of that, so that they can't just say it's a one-off. Okay. And I forget to mention one of my colleagues found his Facebook and found out that he is getting a divorce. We have no idea why, but people are speculating it relates to this incident. Another person shares their thoughts. You don't even need to be in a one-party consent state, since 10 of 11 members in your party agreed to film. It'd be funny if you made and sent the email from a work computer. IT tracks their email and the call is coming from inside the house. And then another person talks about their ex-boss, and this is our last comment, saying, Many years ago, I had a boss very similar to this guy. Not the same man, because my ex boss was a partner in the optometric practice. I hate bullies, no matter how they're packaged. And moving to our last story, am I the asshole for being honest with my boss even if it hurts my coworker situation? I, 26, work at a pharmaceutical company. My coworker, 29, has bad knees and the pain affects her most days. Because of this, I've taken to most of the physical aspects of the job while she handles the reports. I've even covered her workload so she can take days off. And on other days, I do all the physical tasks so she can sit. Recently, I found out I'm leaving the job in a month. A new person, 26 male, joined our team and he has a shy demeanor. Our boss asked me about his skills, wondering if he could handle the work required. I told him he had great computer skills, he is efficient at reading references and typing, all true based on an assignment we worked together. After this, my female coworker was furious. She said that highlighting this report and paperwork skills could harm her, that I'd set things up so that she'd have to do all the physical labor after I left. I told her I didn't mean it that way, I just wanted the bosses to see his potential. She snapped back that even if it was I didn't do it on purpose, the damage was done. I was hurt and sat at my desk while she went to cry in the bathroom. Our boss saw the tension and asked me what happened. I kept saying, I don't know. But she pressed me until I broke down and explained everything. Later, my coworker messaged me calling me a horrible person and a bad friend. She said she'd overheard my conversation with the boss and accused me of lying and snitching to make myself look good and her look bad. I told her that this could actually help her go back to doing reports, but she said she'd rather suffer from knee pain than accept pity. I sincerely apologized and asked to work things out, but she ignored me. She's known for being kind-hearted, so I don't understand why she's handling it this way. And how am I supposed to go to work after the weekend? So, okay, my thoughts is the coworker is just mad that you're leaving and then she will have to do her own physical work. She needs to do her own physical work because that's part of the job. And if she cannot do it, then she needs to move to another position where she sits most of the day so she doesn't have to worry about knee pain. Okay, here are our comments. Not the asshole. It sounds like you replied honestly and professionally about your new coworker, and you did not put the old one on display to begin with. Honestly, sounds like your old colleague sounds exhausting and dramatic. She is lucky that you have been helping her out so much. This is beyond what you can expect. Another person says, not the asshole. Your coworker knows that she's not capable of doing the full job, and you leaving is going to reveal that. She's taking out her fear on the one person who helped her because you're leaving, so you're safe to be angry at. This is not your circus, not your monkey situation for you. And then here is the last one, which perfectly puts it completely out there. She's been taking advantage of your kindness. Now she sees that might be coming to an end. You did nothing wrong. So, what do you think? Ask about any of these stories. What do you think? All right, see you soon. Have a great day. Thank you for listening to this edition of Reading Reddit. Comment your stories or your thoughts below.